Hey guys, I wanted to put this video up because I wanted to get this information out instead of just sitting on it. I wanted to get it out and arm you with information. Because as you know, it's troubling when you turn on the TV and you keep seeing people of color being genocided in the street by law enforcement officers. And it bothered me. It's bothering me. It's bothering me in like serious bothering me. So I said I have got to figure out why is this occurring and why there's been no justice. There's been no justice for Sandra Bland. There's been no justice for especially for Trayvon Martin, for heaven's sake. He was gunned down by somebody who was just a doggone neighborhood watchman. But under Florida stand your ground law, he got away with it, even though the child wasn't armed. But okay, but anyway, Trayvon got gunned down and he received no justice. Little 12-year-old baby, Tamir Rice, gunned down by a police officer because the officer thought the boy was a threat because he had a BB gun. But they didn't know it was a BB gun until after, okay? So they got off. Now you ask yourself, how do you gun down a 12-year-old child and get away with it and say, oops, I thought it was a BB gun and I felt threatened. Okay, how did he get away? And this child is 12 and he's dead now. So this stuff bothers me because if you have children, it's going to bother you. But it bothered me to the point where it made me do some work. So I decided to go digging around to find out, why is this legal? Why? How did they get away with this? Not just the other people, but especially the 12-year-old. How can they get off with shooting and killing a 12-year-old? But okay. This is what I found digging around in the law. Let me calm down. Number one, the fact that we have accepted to be called Black, African American, Negro, colored. Now, if you notice, those terms that references us has evolved over time. So now it's African American or Black American. Okay? So listen. Black, colored, and African American is not a nationality, but was set up by the Dutch masters. Okay? Set up by the Dutch. These are slave code terms. Okay? Oh, help me, Lord. Black, African American are used in law for people that accept it non-discernible. Use of color as a nationality was set up by the Christian Black Codes in 1724. Okay? So the Christian Black Codes gave you these names. Why? Because at that time, you were their property. Okay? Now, I'm trying to stay, and I want to get to. Now, let's jump ahead to the Emancipation Proclamation. Listen here. Okay. They killed Lincoln and came up with the Emancipation Proclamation, which transferred the Christian stock to the Congress of the United States and registered them as cattle. Who are they talking about? They're talking about you, us, people of color. Let me explain that. Your birth certificate is a bond. It is a derivative bond. That's your slave paper. All right? And they transferred However they kept the records at that time, transferred all that over to Congress. So now the U.S. government owns you. Okay? You are the property of the United States corporation. Okay? Anyone who has accepted the label of Black, African American, or Christian property, but not by religion, but by politics. Okay? But of course, the Emancipation Proclamation killed that. So now you're property of the U.S. government. Now, I don't want to get into all that. Let's just handle that little bit of information because it's a lot of information. So let's handle that little bit. Your birth certificate. Every time we give birth and have babies, we sign. Now, and it's not just us. Everybody signs, or everybody has a birth certificate. But the difference between our birth certificates and, let's say, our white neighbors, their birth certificate, there's a difference. The difference is on their birth certificate, their bond, theirs is also a bond, but their bond, they're classified as white. White is not a nationality. Black is not a nationality. They are statuses. They are statuses. So that means white status is protected. They have protection and recognition. Not all white people have white status. Okay? Only free white persons have white status. Free white persons, referred to in Naturalization Act as amended by the Act July 14th, 1820, meaning all persons belonging to the European races, including such descendants into the countries to which they have immigrated. It includes all European Jews, more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtics, Scandinavian, etc., all those northern European islands. Now, it does not mean Caucasian race, Aryan race, or Indo-European races, nor the mixed Indo-European of Persia. Okay. Now, basically all white people here carry the status of white, even though a lot of them, according to Black's Law Dictionary, are carrying that status illegal. Okay, so if they're identifying with the Aryan race, if they're Indo-European race, they're not supposed to be carrying the white status. Okay, but some of them do. They get off because now everybody thinks it means white people and black means black people. No, it does not, because you have black people that are here from Europe that have white status. So when they fill out their applications and they check white. They were told to do so when they immigrated here, because you got to go through immigration, basically. So when they were going through their let's say their orientation, their orientation, they were told to identify as white. Okay? So that's number one reason. Because black is not a nationality. Okay? We are basically nothing and nobody here. We are owned by the government. Okay? Chattel. So you have no protection under the Constitution of the United States of America. You have no protection under the Bill of Rights. You have no protection, none. The only protection that you have falls under the human rights. That's it. And the rights that belong to corporations. Now, why would you fall up under the laws of corporation? Because the United States is a corporation. America is the land. You get it? United States of America. Okay? So they are not the same thing. Citizens of America are protected under the Constitution. They're protected under the Republic law. Citizens of the United States have very limited protections as far as being a person. Very limited. You're only protected under the laws of the corporation. That's it, really. And human rights. That's it. And as far as you being under the your United States, I mean, what are your rights under the United States as a United States citizens? You have the right, freedom of assembly, freedom to practice your religion, freedom of due process in court. What else? The right in the pursuit of happiness, or whatever. That's what look it up. But that's the rights you have. But you are basically a bond derivative as far as the United States is concerned. Okay, so what they did, they made an artificial you. Okay, that's what derivative means, something that's imitating something else. So they made an artificial you, a fake you, a corporation. So you, like me, Rochelle Terrell Dunstan, in all capital letters, that's denoting the corporation Rochelle Terrell Dunstan. Okay? That's denoting corporation. So at this time, all of us, we're all functioning under our slave corporation name. All right? So this is why in the time you are in a court of law, you have to have somebody to represent you. You have to have an attorney. Okay? And the judge is something like a lawyer for the United States corporation. The prosecutor is also there for the state. But they all work together as they are representing the corporation of the United States. And then you got you and your little lawyer over there in the corner. Okay? So that's the only way you can deal in a court of law. And that puts you under the jurisdiction of the state, which means they basically can do whatever they want to do, like they've always done. Take your money, throw you in jail. Okay? So you might say, well, wow, so what now? What can we do? Until you do your research, until you sit down, get off the TVs, get off Facebook, within reason, get off Twitter, get off Instagram, stay out of Hollywood, and actually sit down and stop allowing yourself to be distracted and learn about the law. Learn about what your rights are, because you don't even know what your rights are. All you know is civil rights, but you don't know what they are. And you don't even know that you're not protected because you're not considered anything. Look at your birth certificate. Look at your children's birth certificate. If you look and you see, and it's definitely on your first child, their birth certificate is going to show their parents and black. So that means anything born from these two people is black. So they're carrying the Dutch slave codes, the Christian slave codes, Christian black codes, which denotes you as a slave. Okay? This is on the birth certificate, on at least your first child. But I noticed on my kids, on my second and third one, there's nothing on their birth certificate. There's no black, no nothing on their birth certificate. Their names are up there in all capital letters, of course. And that's good enough. They don't even need to put black on there. Just the name in all caps. That's denoting the derivative bond. Okay, these are slaves. So what does that mean? I'm going to explain to you what's happening to you under your slave name. Now, you go to work. Just like I know, you're supposed to get 100% of your income, because you're the one putting that labor in at that job. You're supposed to get all your money. So you wondering where your money going? Why are you not seeing any of your money? Why? The 1040 form comes under the secret Treaty of Verona. Okay? 1040. Your taxes. 40% of your money goes to the Queen of England and 60% goes to the Pope. The enforce of the secret Treaty of Verona, it is called the Doctrine of Discovery. Okay? Drafted in 1823. Okay. That document, look it up, Doctrine of Discovery. That's what enforces the Treaty of Verona. Look up the Treaty of Verona. Treaty of Verona pretty much deals with folks within the United States corporation that are banding together like little militias, you know, becoming a nuisance to the U.S. government. So they got to do something about it. So that's basically what the Treaty of Verona is. It's basically saying this is how we're going to deal with those who decide to come together and form their own little government or their own state within our government. You know, blah blah blah. So that's what that's for. The Treaty of Verona. So you have, oh Lord help me. We have so many strikes against us. So many. And this is a whole lot of why we're being murdered in the street and getting no justice, because we're considered nothing. Now listen, I'm going to read to you the House Resolution 689 from Rahm Emanuel. This was after he left the Obama administration and ran for Senate. He ran for the Senate in Illinois. So this is what is written. Whereas the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites, Hamites, and Canaanites. So if you want to know who are the Moors, you know, Moabites, who are the Hamites, these are the old, you got tribe of Ham, Shem, Japheth. We are of the tribe of Ham, okay? So, and the Canaanites, who were permitted by the old Pharaoh of Kemet to traverse from East Africa and later form themselves kingdoms extending from the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa, the Atlantic islands, and into present-day continental America. And whereas the indigenous Moorish people of the Americas are now united in order to link themselves with the family of nations. Okay, this is the Moorish Americans that learned the law, learned who they were, but they don't identify as Indians. They identify as natives belonging to this land, but kind of don't identify as Indians. They're what you would term black Indians, but they don't really like to identify themselves and call themselves Indian, but technically that's what they are. They're black Indians. But they've come under this banner of the Moors because these black people also are native to Europe, these black people that live in Europe. So because they accompanied Columbus when he came over here. As a matter of fact, it was a Moor that was steering the boat. So, and the Moors actually helped the colonists actually come here and overthrow the native people, and so that they could take over this land. So a lot of time, so this is why you will hear people referring to the Moors as traitors and things like that. So that's why you will hear people refer to them as such. But in any case, they've actually organized here, and they're called the Moorish Americans, and, look it up. So they've organized here and, and trying to establish their own government, if you will, or their own state. They're trying to form their own government here within the United States corporation. But okay, we'll see how that work out. Being that at this point, the FBI has them labeled as black identity extremists at this point. So the FBI don't really like black folk too good. So, yeah. So that's where they, so leave it at that. So it says, and anyway, they, okay, and of course the Moors, they came together and they forming their own little faction within the United States. and have linked themselves with the family of nations. So they are classified too as American nationals or Moorish nationals. Okay, and it says, okay, the Moorish Americans, being aboriginal to the territories of the North, Central, and South Americas, have formed a solid theocratic government guided by the command principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice through virtue of the universal right to self-determination, as well as with the declaration on with the declaration on the rights of indigenous peoples. Where well, yeah, the rest of it in the chapter, whereas it's January 8th, 1886, the rights of, I don't know, rights of, oh, okay. I'm sorry, I'm struggling reading my own handwriting. But they're claiming their nationality through the rights of indigenous people that was drafted by the United Nations. So they're claiming themselves under that provision. Now, I think January 8th, 1886, this is their prophet. Noble Drew Ali was born in the state of North Carolina. And, I don't want to get into all that because I'm not trying to sway anybody to go in any kind of direction or another. But it's just to say that he basically is the founder of the Moorish movement, the Moorish American movement. Okay. But blah, 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 hosted Mecca, blah, 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 blah. Moorish Americans, as a result of the 13th Amendment, Moorish people were emancipated from slavery. Now, as a result of the 13th Amendment, Moorish people were emancipated from slavery in 1865. Therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 97th Several Assembly of the State of Illinois that we designate the week of January 8th through 15th, 2012 as Moorish Americans Week in the state of Illinois. Okay, I read that just so you'll know that people know the truth. Now, I'm not telling you to go out here identifying as no Moorish American. I'm not telling you to do that. I embrace my Native American heritage, and that's just that with me. I embrace my Native American heritage, and that's just that. I'm not identifying as this, or that. I just embrace my Native American heritage, and as a natural woman with my God-given rights. Okay, that's my status. So, but I gotta file it. But until I file it with the court, I'm black. So, with that said, that's how that goes. Until you go, now the blacks that they were talking about here, the Moorish Americans, this is stuff that they've done. They've gone to their respective districts, courts, or whatever. They filed the paperwork that needs to be filed so that they can be considered as American nationals. So they fall under the Republic law. They are protected by the Constitution. They are protected. Okay? That's the difference between them and the rest of us that are black, African American, or colored. The Moors, the Moorish Americans, they do not identify as black, African American, or colored, none of that. They don't identify as any of those slave codes. Okay? So they managed to put themselves and their community, their children and those affiliated with them under the banner of the Constitution so they can have some protection. All right? And it's been working for them pretty good, They travel, they go overseas. And when they go overseas, they tell people, they say, they don't go over there saying, I'm a black man or I'm a black woman from America. They say, I'm a Moorish American. And they get a lot of respect and a lot of recognition from the Europeans. Okay? Because Europeans know who the Moors are. So whether or not we like them or not, and when I say we, I mean those of us that identify as just plain black Native Americans or Native Americans. You don't want to use black. You try to stay away from that term. But as Native Americans, depends on how you want to look at it. They I don't know. It's so much controversy when it comes to Moorish Americans because some say that they don't identify at all as Indians. they're from Europe or whatever, and then some say no, we're from here, and I don't know. I have no idea what's going on with them. Just to say, when it comes to me and mine, I identify as Native American, and yes, you are Native American too. If y'all on my Facebook page, y'all saw where I put research 103 facts about the Black Indian. They're talking about us, okay? But don't fall into no confusion and with other folks and crazy mess like that. I'm just arming you with information about who you are and why you're suffering the way you are. Why people are being gunned down? Because you don't know. Everybody else knows, but you don't know. Okay? So you might say, okay, all well and fine. I know all that now. What am I supposed to do? How can I protect me? How can I protect my kids? Well, you would have to go and you would have to file an affidavit of status and research that yourself about how to file an affidavit of status, proclaiming yourself as a free and natural man or woman endowed with all of your rights from God, your creator. You're a living and breathing human being. Okay? So, and that has to be written in law language. You just can't be writing it like, you have to write it in law language. So research how to do that, because I ain't doing everybody homework for them. Because I do my homework, do your homework. So research that, how to correctly write an affidavit of status in law language. After you do that, then you would want to go and file your warranty of deed, laying claim on your estate. What's your estate? Your human body, yourself. Okay, that takes you out of the hands of the government, which means you're not a slave to them anymore, which means you're not dumb, you're not incompetent, you're not, you are aware of what's going on with you. And now that you have become self-determining and you know what's going on with you, you want to lay claim on your estate, which is yourself. Okay. And that includes anything that you own. It's also included in as your estate. So you can file that warranty of deed. And that warranty of deed is probably the most important document you will file. Affidavit of status, yeah, it means something, but your warranty of deed is the real meat of the situation, because they can actually call you in court for that, to answer for that warranty of deed, because they want to see, do you know what you're talking about? If you walk up in there, you don't know what you're talking about, they're going to lock you up, because you're going to make one very fatal mistake, that's crossing that banister and going and standing around there beside court-appointed attorney or your own attorney. So you're going to wind up going to jail if you don't know what you're doing. So do not jump into this without first researching what you need to do. And it's got to be right. I mean, it's got to be flawless, because if it's not, you're going to jail. So, because they don't want the slaves getting free. You know what I mean? They don't want the slaves coming out of captivity. They want you to stay enslaved, because once you file your affidavit of status, file that warranty of deed, and you are free, then what you do before or after your warranty of deed, it's up to you. You can do it after you file your affidavit of status. You can rescind your birth certificate, and you can rescind your Social Security card, and you can stop paying taxes. So, but if you say, hey, I still want to work, I like my job, okay, well then you can go and apply for a new Social Security number and work at your job as an American citizen with all of your endowed rights under the Constitution of America, of the United States. You will be covered under, and you have all your rights, and you get to go to work and continue to do. But the problem with that is everything done under your old Social Security number, under your slave Social Security number, you lose. So if you have a pension, like I said, if you got retirement money saved up, if you got this, you're gonna lose it. And if you own a house, you can claim your house in your warranty of deed. You can claim it. If you paid for it, it's paid off. I mean, you can claim it. But I'm not sure how that's going to go, because the court can be, the first trap they're going to try to do is try to entrap you into the jurisdiction of the state. And if you fall in any of those traps, they're going to lock you up, because once they get you up, You're under the jurisdiction of state. And that's just as simple as asking you a question like, what's your name? What's your name? And if you answer, my name is da 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 da, as it's written on that birth certificate, or they're gonna lock you up because you fall under the jurisdiction of the state because you are identifying as your slave name. Now your slave name and your real name and your the only difference is one is all caps and one is not. Your name, you, the real you, is not in all capital letters. The fake you is in all capital letters. If you don't believe me, when you get your bills in the mail, your light bill, your water bill, look and see they have your name capitalized, all caps, because they're talking to you, the corporation, you, the slave you. Okay, so it's like the light bill people and you are in a contract together. They provide you with lights, you paying them for the lights. It's an agreement. So they're dealing from one business to the other. But they're gonna always have a leg up over you because they operate because they know what they're doing. They're a business. You are a fake corporation. Okay, so yeah, there you go. So it's a lot more to this than what I'm saying because there's so much information. I can't put it all up here at one time. But at least I'm letting you know why there's no justice for us because right now we are all functioning under our slave codes. Okay? So you're not protected. So black people, because that's what you're functioning under. You're functioning under the black slave code. You are in clear and present danger every time you walk out your door. Okay? If law enforcement stop you, the only thing you can do is cooperate with them 100%. Do not give them any attitude whatsoever, and I mean no attitude. Okay? You better stand as stiff and as still as a robot. Because you make any movement and they say, oh, I feel threatened, they're going to kill you and get away with it. So until you change until you change your status, until you do all those things, that's how you're gonna have to function. Now, like I was thinking, we built our whole life up under this code, under this black code of African American, black, Negro, colored, whatever. People have built their whole lives under these statuses, under these false statuses. Your whole life is built. So it takes some thinking about how you're gonna do that. Okay, because it may not be the right time for you to go in and do that. Because you might still have really young children that you got to provide for. No matter what your status, you still got kids to feed. And you still got to put a roof over their head. So it may not be the right time for you. The right time for you might be after your kids are grown. That might be the right time for you to say, okay, now it's time for me to go get out of this mess and get these bonds and get these contracts off my head. That's not mine. That I don't even understand. Get these off my head. But you might feel like right now you can't afford to deal with the headache that's going to come with all of this when you still got children to feed and support. Okay, so the best thing you can do is do what you've been doing: work, pay taxes, whatever. Take care of your household. Stay out of situations that can get you killed. Stay out of confrontations with law enforcement. All right? Stay out of those confrontations. Make sure your vehicle registrations are right. Make sure your tail lights and everything is right on your car. Don't give them any reason whatsoever to even look in your direction. Okay? Don't give them any reason. Because something as simple as getting stopped for a tail light, people are winding up dead. Okay? So don't give them any reason to bother you until you get to a point where you're saying, okay, it's time for me to go set myself free from this. But now what about your children? You need to instruct your teenage children, period. All your children, instruct them to how to carry themselves when they're outside of this house and they're walking up and down the street because they're not protected. So you need to instruct them how they need to conduct themselves. You get in no confrontation with a police officer of no period. If he stop you for walking black, then that's what you have to deal with because you're still under those black codes. And that's what you're going to have to deal with. Okay? So until you're at a point where you can get these contracts off your head, teach them how to conduct themselves so it will reduce the chance of them being murdered, because now these officers are wearing body cameras and stuff. So if if your kid or loved one is shot down by an officer or hurt or harmed by an officer, when they complied with everything this officer said do and they're still injured or harmed or hurt, the only protections you do have is under the human rights. So you can go and and they can be prosecuted because of human right, violating your human rights. Okay? So that's the only saving grace why certain officers have gone to jail, because of violation of human rights. They will use the term in the media, civil rights, but you ain't protected under that. Okay? But they'll use that term, but that's not what they mean. Human rights. So teach your kids how to conduct themselves. Now, how you can help your kids, if all your kids are at this point under the age of 18, when they hit 18, they are legal age, 18 years old, they considered adults. And I think boys are considered adults at 21 here in North Carolina in any case, or at least you got to be 21 to drink. But if I'm not mistaken, at the age of 18, they're considered sovereign. Sovereign means they're considered an adult. So at that point, you can help your kids right out the gate. As soon as they 18, go downtown, have them file the affidavit of status, have them put in their warranty of deed, but they've got to know what they're doing and make sure they're armed with the proper information. If you got a lawyer that's your friend, you got a good friend on your side, which means off the record, they can come to your house as friends and buddies or whatever, and they can sit down and tell you exactly how to word your documents to be in accordance with law language, so you can file these things. And if they call your child in the court to answer for that warranty of deed, that attorney can advise that child what to do, what not to do. Okay, but the lawyer can't represent your child. Okay, you can't have any, because you are under the American Republic law. You're protected by American law, so the Republic law. So you don't need no lawyer. You're not under the jurisdiction of the state, and so they can't represent. But if you got a good lawyer friend, make sure you poke their brain a little bit and ask them about this stuff. If you have a lawyer friend, ain't no lawyer ain't just gonna tell you this, because they lose money. If people start waking up to this, you ain't gonna need no lawyer. They lose money, so they're not gonna tell you this. So, like I say, this ain't everything. What I put up here ain't everything, but it's enough to arm you, at least to help you understand where you are and where you stand and why what's happening to you is happening to you. But at this point, cooperate with law enforcement. Cooperate. Do not argue with them. I don't care what they put your hands up, put them up. Lay on the ground, you lay on the ground. You do what you're asked to do and keep your mouth shut. As far as trying to argue what your rights are, because you don't have any, because you're under the black codes. You only can do that after you have rescinded all contracts, turned in your affidavit of status, filed your warranty of deed, and once you are up under the law of the Republic, they're gonna know, because it's gonna be on, because you got to notify all these key places of your status change. And so it's going to be in the system. So when they pull your name, they're going to see all of that stuff about you and likely won't even bother you because of that. But if it is something going on and they do pull you over, they're going to treat you with the utmost respect. Okay? But until you get all that done, you are not protected. So learn how to conduct yourself out there and teach your black boys, teach your black girls, teach them how to conduct themselves, because they're still considered black. All right? So I'm just arming you with that little piece of information. I love y'all. Study. If you want more information, because there's a whole lot more than what I'm telling you, then inbox me and I'll be more than happy we can converse. All right. So as Calvin say, be breezy.